car's windows had been painted over, just so the monsters outside couldn't see them. Jack's only view of the world was through the GPS and the collision alerts on the dashboard. Suddenly, the car's anti-collision system started to alarm. He thought about reversing, but the rear sensors blared too. Then they caught the shadow of something darting across the roof, and the whole car shook violently. They were surrounded. Jack slammed the gas and somehow broke through, making it safely to a supermarket. Blindfolded, they stumbled inside. Anna was relieved that the supplies were still on the shelves. Everyone rushed to gather food and essentials, but Carl insisted they shouldn't risk going back, arguing that this stash could last them for months. Mary flat out refused, and before the fight got settled, a knock came at the door. Jack barely cracked it open when the birds nearby went crazy. Suddenly, people outside started banging on the door, shouting that it was beautiful and that they should open their eyes and see. Seeing that the door was about to be kicked open, John rushed forward and pushed the person outside the door away. The door slammed shut, but John was left outside. A while later, liquid began seeping through the cracks. The rest of the people hurriedly drove home with the supplies. That night, despair deepened when a couple stole a chunk of supplies and drove away. Days later, another knock. Against everyone's warning, Ava opened the door and let a man in. He claimed his family had been captured, forced to open their eyes, and that he'd escaped in the chaos. He said there were groups who worshipped the monsters. Carl immediately pointed a gun at him, saying more people meant more danger. Before he could finish, Laura knocked him out cold and locked him in the garage. The group accepted the stranger. That night, Ava and Mary went into labor both at once. Jack and Laura rushed them upstairs, leaving the stranger downstairs. Alone, he pulled out drawings, images of the creatures themselves, and quietly opened all the windows. From the garage, Carl saw it and realized the truth. The man was one of the zealots. Jack walked down to check, but was knocked unconscious by him from behind. Upstairs, Mary and Ava delivered their babies safely. The man slipped in, cooing over the newborns, but his real goal was tearing away the coverings from the windows. He whispered that they should take a look, that it was beautiful. Ava didn't have time to close her eyes. She saw the monster and her eyes became cloudy. Mary quickly snatched the baby from Ava's arms. Suddenly, Ava rushed to the window and fell out. Laura tried to check on her with eyes shut, but the man forced hers open. Mary clutched her baby, hiding under blankets, while he demanded she hand the child over. Just then, Carl stormed in, firing blind, and hit the man in the shoulder. The struggle tumbled them down the stairs. Jack regained consciousness and wrestled the shotgun. A shot rang out and someone slipped under the blanket. It was Jack. Mary and the babies were alive. 5 years later, they were still hiding in the wilderness. The kids had grown, and Mary trained them every day to move blindfolded, recognizing sound instead of sight. One day, Carl's radio crackled. A voice claimed there was a refuge downstream by the river. Mary was sure it was another cult trap. Carl argued they were out of food. There was no choice. They had a big fight over this. They took their children out to look for food that day. They found an empty house, but heard the sound of a car outside. It turned out that the monster's followers had discovered them. Jack told Mary to run with the kids while he drew them away. Blindfolded, he opened the front door and faced men who needed no blindfolds. They tried to rip off Carl's cover, but spotted Mary. Carl shot one to protect her and took a bullet himself. Blind, he couldn't fight them all, so he tore the blindfold off, ambushing two. As he was chasing the last one, he felt something behind him. He turned, saw it, and lost his mind. But in that final moment, he killed the zealot, then ended his own life. Mary returned home sad. With no choice, she led the children toward the supposed sanctuary. As they neared the riverbank, a zealot lunged from the water, clawing at her blindfold. Mary slashed wildly with a knife until everything went quiet. Dragging her children to shore, she pressed on. But along the last stretch, the monsters whispered in her ears, coaxing her to look. She tripped, tumbling into a ravine, and got separated from the kids. The creatures mimicked her voice, tempting the children to remove their blindfolds. While Mary screamed for them not to, she eventually found Carl's son, but Anna was missing. Mary called out her daughter's name until she found Mary, but the monsters continued to chase them, and Mary and the children ran away. Finally, they found a refuge. There, Mary saw a different life.